So this is the editor screen, and I've got a blank canvas here to start with. So just a very quick thing to tell you about before we get going. The important bit is containers and elements. A container is a box on your screen inside which you put your elements. Elements can be headlines, subheadings, images, text, videos, whatever they might be. These are all elements that sit inside a container. And you can fill that container with as many elements as you want. But then you can have more containers. Now, why would you want to have more than one container? Well, there's probably two reasons. The first is that you can change the number of columns across the screen per container. So you can have a full width one followed by 3 columns and then another full width one. The second reason is that you can change the style of these containers to have different background colours to give emphasis, make them stand out, or images or whatever. So multiple containers with elements inside them, and I'll show you that's the best way. So a container, I'll choose a 1 column container, it's full width, click on it, this is my headline, and I'll center it. And if I hover over it, I've got a blue box, which is my element. And if I hover over these pink buttons, it shows me the container all the way around it. So let me add another element with this plus, add the subheading, and I'll add another one, paragraph, and that'll do. I'll center that, Control E, quick way, center that as well. So if I hover over 3 elements inside the container. Pink is the container, and blue are those elements, and you get the container up by hovering over these pink icons here that appear as you move your mouse around. So that's my one container. Now let's put another container in of 3 columns. So we'll do that and quickly center all of these. Control E centers them, Control L, Control R, left and right. And then I can have another container which is back to maybe full width. So as I hover over, you see this element is inside that container. Hover over that one, that container, and that one. I won't go into too much detail for each of these elements because when you add them, there's a tutorial beside each one which goes into a lot more depth about what you can do and the settings and so on. So this is more of an overview of the editor. So if I add an image in there, for example, let's just do that. But briefly, if I hover over these, I can click and drag this arrow here to change the space above it. The next one is space below it. The next one, the T, click and drag to increase the text size. The next one, duplicate. The next one, delete. And then the pink ones are for the container. So the first one, I can click on that and edit it. And the toolbar goes pink to denote container. And choose a colour, just make it slightly transparent and set the background. And while I'm here, I'll change the border radius. These buttons up here, if they're blue, they're clickable. If they're grey, they're draggable. So I'll click and drag to change the border radius. And click anywhere, click the green tick, or press escape. All does the same thing. So just like I increase the space above the element, I can use this double chevron here to click and drag to increase the space above the container, and vice versa. And then maybe down here you see I could edit this container and give it a different background colour. Yeah, and in this container I could do the same thing. Give that a different background colour. And you can see you can change, because it's a different container, they can have different styles. And while I'm here, I'll change the page colour, which I can do when I'm not editing an element or a container, when the toolbar is grey at the top. So I'll pick a, what should we go with? Let's go for a subtle pink. Alright, so that's how we can edit the page level while this is grey. And while we're at this level, we can switch to tablet view, check it looks alright, go to mobile. Well, that font's too big for mobile, so I'll click and drag, increase that down on the mobile, and maybe bring this up there a bit on the mobile. And there we go, I can change the styles of mobile over the top of the desktop. Not changing the content. Add some exclamation marks there. Click to mobile, those exclamation marks are there. It's just the style you're changing to make it more mobile friendly. So the last thing while we're at the page level are the preview and these heat maps. Preview, click on that, takes you to a preview of the page. You might get asked to allow pop-ups on your browser. Just say yes, that's fine, and then it will let you open up a new window with what people will see when they visit, and it's identical, 100% identical to what you're editing. So you don't have to, but it's sometimes reassuring. And the last one's here, the heat maps. Now this is really cool. This shows you what people are looking at on your page, so you can work out maybe you need to entice people to go further down the page or move elements around so they're in the sort of the hot visibility area. really cool tool to make your pages more conversion once you've got enough traffic to build up the stats. Now, how are those stats built up? Right, well, on the preview, you notice I've got preview equals 1 at the top here. It won't collect stats for looking at that, otherwise all of your testing will skew it. But if I go to a live view of it, and this represents what people will actually be using, now it's recording what people are looking at. So let me go back and edit this page and make this a much longer page, which I'm going to do by just duplicating this heading over and over and over and over again, just to make it long. Okay, so we've now got a much longer page. So I'll save that and I'll refresh my live view. So it hasn't got the preview at the end, this is live view, what people are looking at. And it's now recording what people are looking at. And as they scroll down, it will keep track of where on the page and what elements people are looking at. So I'll just make this sort of a hotspot just by sort of hovering around the middle of the page. And it's tracking every individual element. So it's a really good heat map of what people are looking at and which elements are really grabbing people's attentions. So that's now sort of collected a bunch of data. Whilst I'm in my editor, I can click on this little fire here and it overlays the heat of what people are looking at. And it does that by greying out the less viewed items. So if I scroll down to what I was looking at here, you can see these are very bold. You know, they're still being looked at. If I scroll right down here, it pretty much fades away. People are not looking at that. So I want to insert something in my page here to drag people down the page further down. Or if something was important down here, I want to bring it up into the hotspot. So you can really look at the data and really improve your conversion pages using that heat map tool. It's incredibly powerful. Let me just, for example, if I go down to the bottom here and spend some time at the bottom, I'm just pretending this is hundreds of visitors all coming down and looking at that wonderful image. Go back to the editor, switch it off and back on again to refresh the heat map. And again, I wasn't at the top, it's not changed that. This is still fairly hot where we looked at it before, then it fades away. But now this is coming back into view. And the more people look at this down here, the bolder it will get in your editor. So it's a really powerful way to improve this. Let's just keep going here. This is just me simulating people coming and looking at the page. It's doing this in real time, all the time. I'll switch it off, switch it back on again. You can see this has now got less opaque. So we've got it's now, in terms of priority, this has moved down. What we used to have here, which was bold, is not so bold anymore because it's less viewed overall. This heading here was still very bold, probably because it was actually in both sections that I was looking at. And now down here, this is now becoming bolder as we go. So it will build up, it will tell you exactly where people are looking and are not looking, and show you where to change your page to drag people's attention. Incredibly powerful tool. The last item here resets the heat map. So if you change a page, we bring something up, they're no longer really valid. So we can reset the heat map stats. It all goes back to square one. So if I refresh, no stats, it's all equal. And then we go back here and it starts collecting data again. So because it's in your editor, you don't have to go after different reporting tools or anything like that. You're right there. So if I'm just building up here, look at this view here. Right while I'm editing my page here, now because I reset it, nothing at the top of the page, but obviously down here, look, very strong. This is what people were looking at. These are the elements which appeared the most. So they're grabbing the attention, and there it affects my design of my page. So I've gone at length about that, but it's an incredibly powerful tool to allow you to look at what people are looking at, where your page is failing, where you need to introduce prompts to make people come further down the page, or where you need to move your elements around. Finally, up here, you can clear your page, gets rid of everything. You can manually save, although it's auto saves as it goes. This is just a manual save on top of it. There's help, you can go to the help, and finally, if you've got multiple pages, you can switch quickly between the pages. So that's the overall editor. Best way: go in, add a container, start playing around. While you're in here, toolbar's blue, you're editing the element. while you're editing the container, you edit in the container. Other than that, go have fun.